चालू प्रॅक्टिस बघ बरं. रेकॉर्डिंग रेकॉर्ड चालतं. ओके आलं लक्षात. हां मग तेच ना.
Good morning, everyone. Honorable guests and trustee members, respected principal sir, faculty members and students, a very good morning to one and all present here. I, Architect Nilima Bhide, feel privileged to welcome you all on behalf of Pimpri Chinchwad Education Trust, SB Patil College of Architecture and Design, for the International Conference on Architecture, Planning, Education, Research and Profession, Past, Present and Future. May I now request everyone to please stand in honor for the national anthem.
पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे भारत माता की जय।
Thank you, everyone. To make this morning a blessed one, let's kindle the lamp of knowledge and wisdom with Ganesh Puja. I invite our honorable dignitaries on the stage, accompanied by our respected principal sir, to please grace the auspicious beginning of today's event by lighting the lamp. So I request Honorable COI President, Architect APERP sir, Honorable Vice Chancellor of SNDT University, Mumbai, Dr. Ujjwala Chakradev ma'am, Architect and Academician, Dr. Smita Khan, Eminent Architect Makran Pathak sir, PhD Research and Development Head BNCA, Dr. Vasudha Gokhale ma'am, Director of COAT-RC Pune, Pune Center, Professor Jayashree Deshpande ma'am, Dean Science and Technology SPPU, Dr. Manoj Chaskar sir, Academician from New Zealand, Architect Julian Rainey, respected principal sir Mahendra Solani sir, to kindly come on the stage for lighting the lamp for Ganesh Puja. by the chair on the dais. Thank you, everyone. Now we will proceed with the felicitation. I would like to request respected Principal Sir to felicitate Honorable Senior President and today's chief guest, Architect Abhay Purohit Sir. Thank you, sir. May I now request Vasudha Mokle ma'am to felicitate Ujjwala Chakradev ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. I would now request Vasudha Mokle ma'am to kindly felicitate Smita Khan ma'am.
बोलता था नहीं भी दिया थोड़ा
May I now request Chopre sir to felicitate Makran Pathak sir. Chopre sir is the Deputy Director of PCCOAD. Thank you, sir. Now I would like to request Architect Tanvi ma'am to felicitate Vasudha Bokle ma'am. Now I would like to request Inspector Gohad sir to felicitate Professor Jayashree Deshpande ma'am. We thank Vasudha ma'am and Professor Jayashree ma'am for their support as advisory board members. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Now I would like to request respected Lakshman Thite sir to felicitate Architect Julian Raine sir. Before proceeding, I would like to thank all the keynote speakers and the eminent guests for joining us today and sharing their knowledge and experience with us. This international conference has been conceptualized and executed by our respected Principal Sir Dr. Mahendra Sonamani and the research cell at SBPCOAD under the guidance of honorable trustee members with thorough planning and attention to detail. The aim of the conference is conducting this conference is to encourage collaboration between academicians, researchers, industry professionals, and also to exchange knowledge. Now talking about the conference, the convener of the conference is Professor Shashwati Ma'am, co-conveners are Associate Professor Ruturaj Kulkarni and Assistant Professor Tanvi Ganorkar. The themes of the conference are as follows. Number 1, challenges and opportunities in architecture, education, profession and research. Number 2, environment and energy crisis, challenges, issues and possibilities. Number 3, challenges and opportunities in planning, profession and research. Ladies and gentlemen, in today's conference, participants will share their knowledge and experiences with us. It will be proven to be fruitful and informative for all the members present here. Now let us proceed with the inauguration of the Book of Abstracts. We are glad to inform you that the Book of Abstract has been given an ISBN and contains best wishes messages from our dignitaries, eminent guests and our mentors. The full-length papers will be published in a special edition of peer-reviewed International Journal of Technology, Engineering, Arts, Mathematics and Science with an ISSN. May I please call upon the co-editor of the journal, Dr. Rakesh Dhumani sir, to join the dignitaries for the inauguration of the Book of Abstract. I kindly request all the dignitaries to inaugurate the book. Thank you very much, everyone. Now I would like to request respected Principal Sir Dr. Mahendra Sonamani to say a few words.
A very warm welcome on behalf of Chinchwad Education Trust and SBPCOAD College of Architecture. I welcome all the guests and dignitaries on the dais, respected Council President Abhay Purohit Sarji, for accepting our invitation in a very short period and being the chief guest for today's function. Our keynote speakers, Honorable Vice Chancellor SNDT, respected Dr. Ujjwala Chakradev ma'am, then respected Smita Khan ma'am, Jayasri Deshpande madam, Architect Makran Phatak, Architect Julian from New Zealand, if I have missed any, and my mentor Dr. Vasudha Gokhale ma'am. तुम्हाला नमस्कार मॅडम. आलेल्या सगळ्या पाहुण्यांचं स्वागत आहे. Principals of various colleges of architecture, from profession, and my people who are going to present their papers. ESA Chairman Architect Mahesh Bangad, welcome. I also welcome Principal Chafekar Madam from D.Y. Patil College of Architecture, Principal from MMID Dr. Shubhangi Shiroi Madam, Purva Keskar conveyed she is not coming, but on behalf of her I welcome Manali Deshmukh Madam, Principal Banerjee Madam, Professor Hemlata Budwar, Architect PM Vada Chitale, Professor Meera Shirodkar, Principal Leena Devnath from Alana College of Architecture, Principal Keshav Desai from Trinity College of Architecture, Principal from Anandrao Power College of Architecture, Dr. Rajendra Kodi sir, Professor Arti Petkar from College of Engineering. She is being a big backbone for our research team. Our Deputy Director from College of Engineering, Dr. Chopre sir, who has been on the advisory body. Our mentor and family for SB Patil College of Architecture, Architect Lakshman Thite sir, Architect Gohad sir, and our close friend Architect Pushkar Kanvinde sir for accepting our invitation and being here. Lastly, if I have missed somebody, extremely sorry, but welcome Architect Sharve sir and Sujata Karve ma'am. By any chance, if I have missed anybody, I am extremely sorry. Before taking much of the time, I give the dais to Nilima Bide madam so that we can start with our keynote speech and further function ahead. Thank you once again for all the dignitary members. मी सगळ्यांचं मनापासून स्वागत करतो. सगळ्यांना नमस्कार करतो. तुम्ही हा तुमचा बहुमूल्य वेळ आमच्यासाठी दिला आणि अगदी शॉर्ट पिरियडमध्ये आल्याबद्दल मी तुमचं मनापासून धन्यवाद. म्हणजे स्मिता खान मॅडमचं तर मी धन्यवाद मानलंच पाहिजे की पहाटे 4 वाजता त्या आल्यात आणि रात्री परत ते चालले. त्यांच्या घरी काही अडचण होती, आजारी होती कोणीतरी, पण तरी त्या आल्या. सो नाईस ऑफ यू. थँक्यू मॅम.
Now I request our guest of honor, Architect Makaran Phatak sir, to kindly say a few words. Meanwhile, I request all the dignitaries to please be seated on the sofa below. Volunteers, please guide our dignitaries. It is my pleasure to introduce today's guest of honor, eminent Architect Makaran Phatak sir. Architect Makaran Phatak is the principal architect at M.K. Phatak and Company, Wardha. He has vast experience in the architecture profession. He has designed several education institutions, industrial projects, hospitals, banks, and numerous residential projects. He is the director and design chair at Sri Bapurauji Deshmukh College of Architecture, Sevagram, Wardha. He is also a panel valuer for Bank of India and in Bajaj Finance Limited and Bajaj Housing Finance Limited for Wardha and Nagpur zones. Sir, we are honored to have you today with us. Honored over to you.
Thank you. The Honorable President of the Council of Architecture, Professor Architect Abhay Purohit sir, the Honorable Vice Chancellor, SNDT University, Professor Architect Dr. Ujjwala Chakradev, the eminent academician and keynote speakers, Professor Architect Dr. Smita Khan and Dr. Vasudha Gokhaleji, Dr. Mr. Julian Ryan, Professor Jayashree Deshpande Madam, Professor Dr. Valsa Madam, the convener of this international conference, Honorable Professor Dr. Mahendra Sonawade sir, the galaxy of the stalwarts in the field of architecture in the audience, respected faculties, fellow architects, students and friends. I am immensely overwhelmed to be the part of this international conference, and I am really thankful to the organizers to have invited me over here. It reminds me of a very beautiful board into a photo studio. It said, if we have to capture your photo as you are, we charge you 50 rupees. If we need to add little beauty into your face, we charge 100 rupees. If we have to only show the beauty into your face, we add 100 rupees. And my photo just presented was worth more than 500 rupees. Dear friends, we all know architecture is one of the most challenging fields in the world. Although architecture seems like a fascinating profession, it is highly respected. To carve the niche into the profession of architecture is not easy. It requires a wide range of knowledge with very sincere commitment to the profession. If we wish to gain thorough understanding of the complexities of the profession, we must continue to keep pace with the time. We must be aware about the recent research in the field and prove ourselves at every level. Successful people into this profession care more about doing the work than getting recognized. In this era, of profound social, technological, and environmental shifts, the built environment must respond to the current social and environmental emergencies in the way that enhances the human experience and well-being. It minimizes the costs, maximizes the efficiency, optimizes the resources, and enhances the quality of life. Research for innovative solutions, new materials, and alternative ways of conceiving the architecture, therefore, becomes a priority of the hour. The current state of architecture and design requires extensive collaboration and an investigative attitude, and so we continue to develop new research technologies. These technological advancements should be used as a tool and means of creating better bridges between the old and the upcoming generation of architects. Architects also face a unique challenge in addressing the generational gap in their profession. To bridge this, we have to gain expertise in old as well as cutting-edge techniques and require new skills related to advanced technology. The students of architecture are coming into this profession with lots of dreams into their eyes. Friends, we as senior architects should really think about this in a very serious way, because I think we have to make them aware about what is happening into the society right now. The universities right now are giving the considerable amount of academic knowledge, and the rigors of the real world quickly become challenging to our graduates, resulting in a lack of employment opportunities after graduation because of lack of practical experience. There is no opportunity to experiment and incorporate the ideas of the students. We should also make available apprenticeships for the younger generations that can bring fresh perspectives to architecture, while providing them with a growth opportunity and let them think and act. The senior and accomplished architects, therefore, should devote little more time and volunteer their time and share it with the students of architecture. Before I conclude, I know everyone is very eager to listen to the keynote address. I want to appreciate the tremendous teamwork behind this program today. Everyone involved in organizing this grand conference deserves sincere appreciation. The management, this college I suppose is almost 8 years old now. The span of 8 years is not too much of a big span into the life of an educational institute. This is probably my third time to visit this institute. Every time I have visited this institute, I have found something better, something new into this college. I had also a chance to interact with the faculties of this college during the faculty training program. And I was really stunned to see the motivation of all of the faculties over here. I know this has been possible only because of the able leadership of the principal, Dr. Mahendra Sonone sir. I am very sure that this college has got glorious future. The management of the institutions imparting architectural education is becoming very difficult day by day. But I am happy that the illustrious management of this institute, the SBPCOAD College of Architecture, has organized such a grand international conference dedicated to architecture, planning, education, profession. I extend my best wishes for the fruitful outcome of the scholarly deliberations over here in the next 2 days. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable words. Moving forward, now it gives me a great pleasure to introduce our first keynote speaker, Dr. Smita Khan ma'am. Dr. Smita Khan is the principal architect at Smita and Habib Khan Architect Firm in Nagpur. It is one of the leading architecture firm in Nagpur, which is always keen to create contextual and relevant architecture while being environmentally and ecologically responsible. Dr. Khan is also associated with VNIT Nagpur as a faculty member. She has graduated from same college, following which she has completed her Masters in Architecture Design from University of Illinois, followed by PhD in 2013. Dr. Smita Khan has published a number of research papers in various renowned journals. Ma'am, we are happy to have you here in the conference. Ma'am, please.
Namaskar. A very good morning to everyone. It's my immense pleasure to be here amongst all of you to share some of my thoughts and actions. And when I was asked by Dr. Sunavne many months ago, I asked him what the platform would expect of me. And he told me that most of the attendees are going to be research scholars at various different levels. There are some who are just about to join the doctoral, there are some who are in the middle, and then some who might be close to graduating. So I decided that I would set the tone for this keynote by focusing upon the vital role of research in the making of an erudite academician. And also at the end, we will talk about the various directions that can be taken up by those who have either completed or just about completing. I have titled my presentation, Significance of Research and the Making of an Erudite Academician, the Way Forward. I would request that when I ask you to move to the next slide. Okay, let's have the slide 2. It's not without reason that PhD was made mandatory. In fact, it has been mandatory in other academic disciplines, but it has come into architecture maybe about a decade and a half back. Not much actually, it's just picking up now. A doctoral degree is not just a stipulated course of study, because there is something which adds value to it if we are aware of it. So I want to put forward all of those positives, let's call them perks, that come with the doctoral effort. And it is just that we have to be conscious so that we know that while we are doing what is a routine work towards getting a degree, we are also value adding ourselves with these perks. I would like you to go to slide 3. So I have these 9 points that I have put up here. The first and the most important thing, which I know everybody here knows, is that doctoral study is not like any other education. It allows for a 360 degrees of free will, independent self-study. It is one enrichment wherein a scholar leads the study. And when you are saying, I have an advisor, I have a guide, then that guide or an advisor is not going to hold you by the finger and take you along. The guide or the advisor is just a mature companion with whom you can debate, you can discuss, you can interact, and you can together go for a freewheeling exploration. Now this is the best part of the doctoral, which is its self-study mode. In graduation you don't do it, in masters you don't do it, but when you're doing your doctorate, that is what is expected, and it is wonderful. So this is aspect 1, the ability to self-study. Let's go to the next slide. Now the primary role of an academician is to pave the way for her students to learn to learn. See, this is the new pedagogical theory that we have, that you have to teach the students learning to learn. And unless and until we are able to explore on our own, how will we carry out this learning to learn? And if you're going to tell this to our students, then we have to do it ourselves to begin with. So we have to we have to hone our ability to explore. So in essentially, a doctoral is an exploratory endeavor. The next slide. Now a teacher has to have great command on verbal expression. This is a given. I mean, unless you can really talk and you can express, how can you be an effective teacher? This appears simplistic. When I say that all of these points appear simplistic, but you please look into each one of them carefully. I'm sure we have at some point of our life or other come across a teacher who keeps on talking to herself standing in front of the class, and you're just waiting for the class to end. Why does this happen? It happens with many of the teachers. So this is something that we have to learn during our doctoral, and how are we going to learn that? I'll just come to that. Then there are some of us who start on great ideas, and then along the way, so I'm speaking for say 30 minutes. At the end of the 30 minutes, I reach a point which is rather irrelevant. Have you ever experienced this? Because I have experienced many of these people. They start somewhere and they end somewhere. So like, hey, what happened on the way? Why? It started somewhere, it has ended somewhere, and doesn't seem to have any logical binding. As teachers, effective communication is through the medium of narration. And the simple task of narration requires an analytical capacity. What do I want to speak? How do I carry it forward? How do I bring it to an end? Is my point made? Are all these things that we have to understand as effective communicators. So aspect 3 is to analyze, assimilate, narrate effectively. A doctoral effort hones ability to identify an issue, to analyze it, and arrive at a logical conclusion. If I'm going to talk of my experience, we were together when we were doing our masters, many of us at my institute, and some of them were even my teachers, and I thought that they became better teachers after they came out with the doctoral. We all had our doctorals very late in our lives, but it made a sea difference in the way the teacher was narrating. I think it helps when you do a doctoral. Next slide. Now as teachers, we are all acclimatized to talking, but the talking doesn't come without a lot of work. When we take our studio classes or when we take our theory classes, there's a lot of effort we put into our work, isn't it? Every lecture is really worked upon, and as we get senior, there is more and more maturity that gets added into the lectures. What happens after the lecture finishes? It's just done, it's gone, poof, into the air. So I think as time passes by, every year we should document whatever we are teaching. Not only this makes up a repertoire of documentation of a teacher's work, it helps us in our own evolution. What did I do 5 years back? How have I progressed? So it's a great self-evaluation, as well as this creates a great repertoire for the institute itself so that they can have a pedagogical direction. When so many teachers document work. Some of the institutes are doing it, and I think this is simply a great effort. So now this effort in documenting is requiring an ability. I'm basically talking of honing abilities when you're doing your PhD. Expressing effectively through the written word. That's another very important thing. While you speak effectively, you also write effectively. This is aspect 4, ability to write succinctly, yet with logical clarity. And so a doctoral thesis is the culmination of research effort and calls for improvement of writing skills. Unless you have writing skills, let me tell you, theses come back from the examiners unless the thesis is properly written. And this has happened. I'm witness to many of these things that I've put down here, so I thought maybe I will share it with you. The next slide. Now, education is having its validity through a process of evaluation. Examinations are our only way of evaluating. I mean, this is a largely accepted system of evaluation that we have in India. And we are the evaluators. We correct, we give them marks, and we say, okay, this one is better than that one, or whatever else. But what about we as teachers? Are we used to evaluation? There are some systems that institutions have put into place. Like in my institute, there are some evaluation forms that are given out to students almost at the end of the term. Those forms are common for the entire engineering institute. So there are many lacunae, and you get some marks, and if you are a 9.5 out of 10, then you know either the teacher is very friendly, or the teacher is granting marks liberally, or the teacher is playing to the galleries. There are other reasons. So it doesn't really feed back into you and all the mature work that you're putting into the classes, lectures, and your effort as a teacher. So it cannot evaluate the myriad capacities of a teacher. So let's talk of serious evaluation. How does that happen? This is another thing that happens in a doctoral, where qualities such as ability to identify real-time issues, that becomes a research question. Then reading or exploring literature reviews, because so many more people or other people also may have done the same work in different contexts. So you know what other people are doing. Then identifying gaps, working out an appropriate methodology, identifying tools, appropriate statistical methods. See, I'm talking of the methodology of a PhD itself. And then we are studying independently a new ground issue or a new ground exploration. And this is a very tall task. Is the evaluation really giving you feedback on all this? Because all of this feeds into your lectures, but doesn't really tell you if it has made you any better. Better still, a PhD wants you to publish. This publication is extremely important, and many of our institutes expect that the publication be in journals of international standing and rating, and this evaluation is generally through blind peer reviewing, which is actually a test of fire. Publish as much as you can when you are a PhD scholar. PhD has so many stages in it, right? So at every stage, publish. It doesn't matter if you are getting marks for it or not getting any marks for it, just publish. Go to conferences, speak. Because if you speak, you're going to have the ability to stand in front and hold forth on what is your topic of research, yeah? So I would like to have the next slide. I just put up this here. I tried this. My advisor insisted that on every stage, go ahead and write something. So don't worry about what I have written, but I want the stage. These are the stages of PhD, yeah? So many stages. There's a literature review, there's a significance, there's a methodology, tool development, discussions, conclusions, findings, and application of the research. So you continue writing your papers on whatever you have researched. And those are the years, because 2009 and 13 were my years of doctoral. It continued a little beyond, but so much is the scope that you get to write, to publish, to talk, to become a master of what you have sailed out to do. Next. Now once we start teaching, most of the time we stop reading. Why? It is noticed that we only read, say, I'm doing history of architecture, so I only read history of architecture. But there are many other things that you can read. You got to constantly read. And a PhD doesn't start unless and until you read. And while you're reading, there is a virtue that gets developed into you, which is to acknowledge the work that someone else has done. That is extremely important. And so you always give citations. Acknowledge what people have done, how it is helping your work. It's supposed to be a great way to build your research upon. So, in-depth reading. This is the 6th point. And no doctoral inquiry can initiate without a wide and then specific reading. Next slide. One other important thing is to create knowledge in this fast-moving world, so that old and obsolete knowledge can be tweaked and newer avenues can be opened up. So it is crafting of new knowledge that you're doing with your PhD work. So aspect 7 is contribution to the widening knowledge base. It is our original work. So however small it may be, because every PhD is a tiny gap that is bridged, but still it is adding to the knowledge base. Let's come to 11th point, 11th slide. Now, once we have widened the base, how do we turn around? How do we help? This is by introducing new courses. Let us introduce elective courses. Such elective courses are going to be amazing. They're going to be quirky, they're going to be flavorful, because they come from individual researchers. You get the point? I am individual in my own right, the way I write a course. And we are getting that autonomy from our Board of Studies these days to float these courses. Float them as an elective. Currently we are having issues with the number of electives that we have. It is so pathetic, and so less are the electives in the basket that the poor students have to take mandatory elective. What does it mean? But we are all capable as PhD scholars. Let us introduce courses. And the strength of the course stands because students start taking your elective. Okay? So we have unique courses and an enriched learning experience. And because your doctoral is so new that the students are very happy that they are learning something very, very new. Something that they're seeing happening around them, and that is being addressed in the course. Next. Now, this is my last point. Making of that all-rounded academician is going from just gathering information, moving into knowledge, to becoming wise. What is a PhD? It's Doctor of Philosophy, right? It's the highest degree that you get. And so, The aim of the doctoral is quite lofty. It is an elevation to become wise. Now it's how each one takes it. Because PhD has become mandatory, there are scrupulous and unscrupulous ways of going about it. What you have to do is at your own end. Because becoming wise is a personal evolution and a personal choice whether you want to get there. Else you can always get your PhD degree. It's becoming quite easy these days. I would like to tell a little bit about my process. Not really about my research, but the whole process. Because I made the process enjoyable. I wanted to do my PhD and I wanted to do it abroad, but that didn't happen because it happened so late in life that my children were studying with me and they were giving their board exams, so I couldn't really go abroad. I had to be with them. I did it locally in VNIT with a junior as my guide, and I enjoyed the period. So that enjoyment is not really where you're doing it or under whom you're doing it, but it's just that you want to do it. It is so fun. So if you talk about my academic life, the PhD is the most fulfilling and happy one. And do you know what it did? It helped me finish my PhD. I was given 4 years because I was a part-time PhD scholar. 1.5 to 2 years, everything was done. I was waiting for the 4-year period to get over so that I could present. My doctoral thesis, when it went out, came back in about 2 months of time. That was what happens. That's what happens when there is positive energy and a happy energy that goes into it. At that time, I stopped everything. Especially the profession was totally stopped. There was no design happening. Abhi didn't even see me anywhere. I was just into my work. I was the nerd in the house. 2 daughters, kaam kare to kare, nahi to nahi kare. I was the one who would always work. So this is what happens when you're happy with what you're doing. Now I would like to narrate what were the advantages that opened up. You see, when you are a student, you should publish, like I said, and present at conferences. Now this is what I used to do. So invariably when you publish, present, you meet like-minded researchers when you go to conferences. And then there are these networks that you reach out to. So many scholars do your kind of work. Then there are people who are writing books, so they're authors, they're mentors, and they have their own networks. So you kind of reach out to them and you become a part of them. So you all become like a microsystem that helps each other. When I was doing that, I was offered a place on an editorial board. And some of these that I'm working on are the Asian Journal of Behavioral Research, Asian Journal of Psychology, which is published from Malaysia. And I'm still on the editorial board of Open House International, the OHI. Have you heard of this? Because I think we do want to publish in the OHI. It's a great journal. Do try to publish there. And then I'm also on the International Journal for Architecture Research, the IJAR. So these days I'm into peer reviewing papers across the world. So this is something that can happen after you finish your PhD. Now, in terms of, I just told you, float new courses. I tried that. I floated 3 new courses. Of course, when they come in as electives. One of the courses which was based on my PhD was Environment Behavior Studies, and in our institute, that was a deficiency because we didn't have it at any level in the 5 years. So this got elevated to a core course, and now it's a primary course at a 200 level. So it's a very small, we do it at second year level, so it can be carried into the design studios. And its sequel is ready to be floated on a higher level now as an elective. The other thing that I told you is I'm not just discoursing, but some of the things that I've been doing myself is like documenting. This course which I floated myself and became a core course, I was so excited. It took me about 3 years to document how the course was working because the course had to be hands-on. If you want to do a hands-on course, and if you look at our calendar, timetable of the day, you can't make anything hands-on. Ek hi period milta hai. In a week, you get 3 periods separately placed. So how do you do a hands-on work? You can't leave the campus. You can't even get out of the gate of the campus because then the time is up. So somehow I used to manage that, and then I documented the entire course pedagogy, and it became published as a chapter in a recent book, which is the Routledge Companion to Architectural Pedagogies of the Global South. Now I want to particularly talk about this not because of my chapter, but the fact that publishers are now looking at the Global South, which is where we are. Global South has been out of international context for a very long time. And now it is slowly coming into the picture. So if you have great research to show, you can contribute. The Global South is getting amplified. Hey, become part of it. Now I haven't really done this, but publication of books is where the final end should be for a research scholar who can write, who can narrate, who can express. So yes, we require so many books. Let's not call them textbooks because that's a bad word to use. We use them in school. We're not going to use them when we are at a graduating level, right? Now, I would like to go to slide 15. Lagging behind. Now, in talking of academic research, I wish to talk about some ground observations and my thoughts and experience of the current state of affairs. This is for a feed forward. Formal PhD system is having some drawbacks, as is very clearly seen. PhD is mandatory as of now. Policies may change, and PhD in some time may become non-mandatory. But it's good to do it. It's an amazing thing to do. So anyway, today many are enrolling because it's mandatory to stay in the system. It's not just for the students, it's also the teachers. At least in CFTIs, we get credit points for every teacher, every student that graduates under us as a PhD. So obviously, as guides, as supervisors, they are interested that their students move ahead and get PhDs in place. What happens here? Everybody knows the inevitable. That is just not the students, but the guides and the institutes also misusing the system. Not at all times, but it is a fact. So we just have to be, let's be aware. I think slide 15 correct. Many PhDs are compilations of statistical data. Fantastic statistical data. So many numericals. Nobody understands. Nobody wants to open the mouth. Sitting in the front, because you don't know, you might say something wrong, and maybe the scholar is doing something right. So I have seen these heavily numerical things, nobody says anything, no feedback from the research panel that sits in the front. Is that a good thing to do? The discussions and the outcomes of such a research, which is only statistical based, is based upon this mathematical jargon. It seldom has any insight. It does not have any astute understanding of the situation at hand. Did we not say we are doing Doctor of Philosophy? Then don't you think there should be a greater insight only than that, rather than only statistics? Statistics helps, but limited. I come from a CFTI, which is a centrally funded Institute of Technology. Here, publication in SCI and SSCI journals is mandatory, and so there is heavy reliance on the statistical methods. It is necessary to do a statistical method, but thus far and no further. That is for all of us in architecture, because we essentially do qualitative research and not quantitative research. So there is not much to offer in many theses in terms of a full-fledged understanding of the task at hand. Research in a professional field like architecture and its natural branches dealing with the built environment studies have to augment the profession. Are we not architects? Yes, we all are. We are in academics, but we are essentially architects. It is seen that most topics are far from pragmatic fields. Now, I just come to this interaction between the academia and the profession that this conference wants to address. There is little or no interaction between the academia and the profession. Institutions always put forth their quota of visiting professionals. It's shown on their timetable, so they are able to tell the COA, you want 20%? We have 20%. But do these 20% really dovetail or enrich, especially research and its outcomes? They're there on the timetable, they're not doing anything beyond it. Egoistic academicians and stiff-necked professionals. They are extremely suspicious of each other. Standing in the line between the two, I know how difficult it is to tread. When I stand on the professional side, I don't tell people I'm an academician, because then they say, "Isko design aata hai?" So much of suspicion. And when I stand in the academia, I don't tell them that I am in the design world, because then they say, "Isko aata hai?" So there's a lot of suspicion on two sides. Whichever side you may be, let's understand this. There is stereotyping and utter isolation on two ends. How will we come together? Funding is another major issue. We have a lot of funding coming in the CFTIs, which are centrally funded technical institutes. But I think there is no roadmap for funding where private institutions are concerned, and neither is there profession-funded research. These are two sides of the same coin, but they have no faith on each other, the profession and academia. If I am a specialist and I'm doing a certain project on ground, it requires enormous amount of data conceptualization, which academic institutes can well give to me so that the design can begin. But it doesn't happen. If such a thing is set rolling, then maybe funding can occur from the profession as well. I'm going to come to examples shortly. It's just not a shot in the dark, I'm just going to come to examples. Worst case scenario with most of the research is that academicians working in silos. Very private, very guided, very secretly. I understand when you are a student and when you are working, you don't want others to steal, you know. So that happens. But once the research is finished, still the research is hidden. अब किसने चोरी करनी है भाई? आपका तो हो गया ना? Read out. Let the world know about it. And so, let's talk about the open domain. Government is making efforts that so much of research is happening, bring it into the open domain. One of them is IIT Kharagpur's portal, the National Digital Library. Have you heard of this, the NDL? Yes. And one of its verticals is Shodh Ganga. Now, CFTS scholars have to upload on the Shodh Ganga because unless and until they upload, they don't get clearance. हम जब ऐसे कुछ डालते हैं ना उसमें, you will not get a clearance unless you upload. They go and upload. Otherwise, who is interested in uploading on the Shodh Ganga? So they go and do it. ठीक है, झक मार के करते हैं. But the percentage of CFTIs is very minimal. It's private schools across India where so many graduates are coming out, where research is spreading and on a wider basis. It's here that you need to come out. Now looking at this gap and the need to fill it. Hey, this is coming from Habib, okay? He told me to insert this when I was working on this presentation. He said that COA started the samarth.org. You know this? I was just talking to Jayashree about it. This is a portal and a very small effort towards archiving architectural research. So this is specially meant for all of us in the architectural academia. This repository has 3 verticals, I understand: PhD research, library, and documentation. So whenever you finish your research, reach out, put it up on the Shodh Ganga. Habib informs me of the distress that he is having because of the lukewarm response. What shall we contribute this to, this lukewarm response? To plagiarism, fear of criticism, lack of confidence in our own world, in our own work, or theft? Nothing is going to happen. Just go ahead, be a master of your research, upload it, let people read it. So many more are going to benefit from what you are doing. So research is still coming of age and still needs working at home. Let's go to 16. Yes. Now this is my concluding part, and this is the most important one because I'm focusing now on the way forward and dovetailing with professional practice. This is extremely important because we are architects, whether it is this side or whether it is that side. Research essentially addresses real-time issues of the present leading to the future. Only then it is relevant research. And such research is the need of the hour. I spoke out to reaching out to academic networks when you are a student of the doctoral. Once you are a scholar, you should reach out to real-world networks for postdoctoral work. This has not picked up steam in our country, and I'd like to place a scenario before you all. Our country is seeing a surge in infrastructural projects. We are doing smart cities, we are doing highway networks, we are doing new campuses and institutions. How many NITs, IITs, AIMS have opened up, and so many private campuses are opening up. We have integrated tourism development, especially in Maharashtra, we have a lot of it happening. Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, Jal Shakti Abhiyan, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, and more in this area. Are these projects in the domain of built environment? They are, right? So why are we not in them? How many architects are part of these endeavors? And how many architectural institutes? This is where we should be searching for the real issues to find where our doctoral work can be positioned. Slide 17. Government today is the largest patron. I just put some of them here. Largest patron of built development today. Projects are announced by several ministries. All projects require a well-researched, innovative conceptualization, policy write-ups, and an appropriate database. If there's anyone here who's been working with the government, they would know what kind of pathetic write-ups come your way when you're bidding for a project. Even for projects of eminence, if you read what they're saying to you, you would like to pull your hair. बाल नोच लोगे, इस तरह से write-ups आते हैं. Should they not come from us as academicians? We are the ones to narrate, to write, to express. We know how the project should work. This is the way it is. This is where we are required now. This is a time for fruitful collaboration. Collaboration between academia and the practice. When academic research completes, it grants you a degree. It's the highest degree. But if research is done in silos, as it is in most cases, it's going to become irrelevant in some time. Let us endeavor to make research live and actively connected to our present developments. I'll give you some live example. 18. Okay, I think I sent them an old presentation. This is an example of public facilities on roads and highways under the Gati Shakti Abhiyan. This Abhiyan relies heavily on user centricity. Road networks are of the highest technical quality, and as Indians we are so happy that our country is having an amazing network of roads. And we have the Samruddhi Mahamarg from my place to your place and like that. And how many fatalities since the highway has inaugurated? Why do you think this is happening? You can't have highways that are just technically great. Yeah, because technically we have greatness. When it comes to user centricity, one needs to have a research upon a deep or an understanding of how highway journeys can be made comfortable for drivers. The drivers are sleeping on the steering wheel. There is no place to break up. There is no effort on that end. Abhi aankhein khul rahi hai ki you just cannot have the highways like this, but you have to go on the softer ends, which are the user-centric ends, right? So studies on this aspect will be extremely useful and relevant. Now this is an old slide, and this is where this is a wayside amenity. Just look at the way they're building. There's no involvement of architects. Abhi shuru hua hai ye, and I just wanted to show you what happened after this. We couldn't do much because this cannot be pulled down. You know, this has entailed a lot of money. Finances have gone into it. So we just tried to humanize it a little bit. But now there is massive work happening at this end on making these facilities not like this, but the way they should be. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, now this is when our office was commissioned this project. We were searching because there was no research available. We embarked on our own to investigate parameters that required to get into the design, and it took 4 to 6 months of intensive research on travel patterns, traffic densities, footfall, typology of travelers on particular road segments. Because road segments depends on what kind of drivers are there, what kind of, people are going to move in there. So the highway lay-bys is an altogether different concept, and it requires a base of standardization of facilities. Since we are a very large country, I just like to show you what I showed in the earlier slide were just, warehouse kind of things that were made. But if you really put your effort into designing, then this is the highway. On the left and the right side, you're seeing the facilities coming up. There's also a helipad there. Because for fatalities on the road, you require immediate first aid, immediate looking into medical facilities. So now the comprehensive program addressing roadside amenity is also to have helipads and the basic primary medical aid which will be given. These are having dhabas, this is having a motel, so people can relax, the children can play, you can stretch your legs, you go back on the journey. Yeah, and not to say there are great toilets, at least we're making them great. I hope as a country we keep them great. That's another thing. But then you see this manual of standard, the wayside amenities had to be made in the office because such a data was not available. And this is how we are trying to humanize it, make it into great places to stop. Every 50 kilometers they're supposed to come up. So we would love to see every highway that's coming on. And these highways are supposed to change. As you change borders, you go from Maharashtra to Madhya Pradesh, they will have a different character which will take up the local architectural flavor. So this is how an architectural effort is being put into place. Let's go to the next slide, 20. This is another example. Everybody knows this. They are in every city. It's a great effort to grant a roof over people who cannot afford a house. Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. And here is some. Do you think any thought has gone into these schemes? It requires a lot of policy help inputs, behavior and cultural research to be fed into this. These faceless projects require our help. And we are not doing it. So I think this is where we could feed into. I feel these are areas where practice can hold hands with academic institutions like this one and many others. If academic research cells take up a typology of projects to work upon, projects that are floated by the government, these can contribute into making of the project, and you'll also get funding. Because the government can fund you. Possibly the government doesn't know that such an effort can happen. We have to go forward and tell them, we are competent and do this for you. 21. I feel this is the way forward. Strong research, practice, governance link. To create research cells that can formulate all of these databases And while this is happening in the research cells, first and foremost is to formulate research cells in various different institutes for postdoctoral work to continue. So while the teachers continue to be teachers, at the basic end, they can also continue to mature, because as you grow older, would you like to deliver the same lecture to the same people, to the same class? The class graduates, but you are getting older. They continue to be 18, 19 years of age. Now I'm 50 and I'm delivering history of architecture since so many years. Do you think that's going to keep me intellectually engaged? No. I have to grow. So for me, that growth comes out of doing these kind of things, that I keep moving ahead. History of architecture to nikal nahi sakte. It is there on the timetable, it is required. So it will be at its own level, but I am maturing. I need, for my own maturity, something else happening at my level. So I think these are great things to start with. So then we can start making relevant courses. I'm going back to making courses because you have to feed back into the academic system, which is also fairly stagnant. It needs to move now. There's so many research happening on pedagogies, right? So here, the pedagogy will start changing itself. Even as all of us feed new courses, the pedagogy is going to change. We'll have a huge basket of electives and a student can weave through whatever he wants. Someone's good in art, someone's good in science, someone's good in management. You can weave through, right? So they're going to be benefited, and let me tell you, the students love these electives because they're real time, they're contemporary, and they come from a teacher whom they know is connected to the real world. Otherwise, I know what happens to history teachers. They will become relics in the class. So unless and until you're moving around, you lose a lot of respect. Anyway, so together in the field of architecture and the built environment, we can contribute towards an exemplary development of our nation on the path of progress. I hope this is going to inspire some positive action in your esteemed institute. Thank you for having me here. Thank you for hearing me out. There is a work for our India. It's on the path of progress, and we are all there to work for it.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for giving valuable guidance regarding the significance of research in academia as well as in industrial profession. It was a very knowledgeable session. Now, I would like to announce to everyone that this conference is broadcasted live on YouTube channel of SBPCOAD. Today's next keynote speaker is Honorable Vice Chancellor of SNDT University, Dr. Ujjwala Chakradev ma'am. Let me introduce to ma'am. Dr. Chakradev ma'am has completed architecture graduation and MTech in urban planning from VNIT, Nagpur. She has also pursued her PhD in architecture education. Before joining SNDT Women's University, Dr. Chakradev was acting as a principal at one of the best architecture colleges in Nagpur, Srimati Manorababai Mundle College of Architecture. She was played a very vital role during her long tenure at the institute. In addition to teaching profession, Dr. Chakradev is also a member of Unnat Bharat Abhiyan 2.0 program under Ministry of Education. She is also a member of Planning Board of Indira Gandhi National Open University and National Board of Studies of Town Planning AICTE. She has published a number of research papers and chapters and has numerous copyrights on her name. She has made a great contribution to special committee member to reframe minimum standard of architecture education headed by Council of Architecture. We are honored to have you today with us, ma'am. Now I request respected Dr. Ujjwala Chakradev ma'am to please share her thoughts.
Technical glitch. the presentation which I thought of sharing with you is not the one which is being shown here. Some mistake from my side in copying, but I did it while coming. It's okay. We can put it. Yeah, run it. I'll pick up something. Today is very good afternoon, nearing the afternoon, and I'm so happy to be with you all here. There was some discussion 5 months ago when Shashwati asked me that whether you will be able to come join here, and I said yes. This is not the one which I would be actually. Can we go to the next slide, please? No. Don't show. So I'll try and speak what was there in my slide, in those slides. Can you go to the next photo, next to see wale mein jana? नीचे है पर नहीं रहा तो चलेगा because time will be wasted. Past, present and future of architecture education is the theme today. And now we are going to talk about, Madam talked about research, which is one of the most important components. She mentioned about the academia and making of an academia out of research, which was a wonderful presentation. I liked it. The most important part which I enjoyed was about the short-term courses which can come out of every researcher. And there's a huge plethora of short-term courses which is required now in the academics. Because now we are preparing for future through national education policy, which is not now round the corner, it's there. And we have to follow it, and that was my topic which I was about to talk to you. How are we as architects going to prepare ourselves in architecture education for adopting national education policy or being benefited from national education policy? On 29th of July, it will be 3 years. So we'll be celebrating 3 years of national education policy now. With these 3 years, what have we as architects done? We have an advantage. In national education policy, it talks about flexibility, it talks about multidisciplinary education, it talks about holistic education, it talks about integrated or being rooted to the ground. It also talks about the education which is very, very important to have the understanding of the ancient knowledge system which India has, which Bharat has, and many other things. Why I said we have an advantage is because we in architecture education have already been taking many things which have been mentioned in national education policy. And we are halfway through ready for it. It's only few things which we need to modify and come forward to. Sometimes I normally say that for taking the license of architecture or to practice as an architect, we have had the set of 5 years through which we all went. And then after 5 years, we just got the license. We also were considered to be ready for taking up the education or teaching. And we just entered as a teacher in the field of education. There, some times ago, that put me in question when Council of Architecture started NIASA. And we started talking about training the teachers. I'm so happy to have been a part of that and learned so much through NIASA while being a part of it. So training a teacher is very important. To be a teacher after graduation is what I understood and learned at that point of time. Education, architecture education per se has got three parts, which all of us know that it has a knowledge base, it has skill component, and it also has a design. We normally have been saying that knowledge base is there, and with changing scenario, this knowledge base has to be enhanced, and through research, which was mentioned, has to enhance further. And this knowledge base, skill, which we as architects have never given much importance to, as is my contention, and pardon me if I'm saying so. The skill per se to reproduce the building. When it comes to drawings, when it comes to designing on the drawing board, yes, definitely we have been able to develop those skills of thinking abilities to some extent, but developing the skills of which are required right on the site, we were not able to develop through our education. And design, we don't have to teach, is what has been said so far. So it's only the ambience and the environment which is required. Now with this background, when we talk about national education policy and adopting the national education policy, there are various aspects of national education policy which makes it possible for architecture education to be a part of the entire global scenario as well as reaching to the roots of our nation. Now when we talk about reaching to the roots of the nation, addressing the requirement of our nation particularly, at that time the similarities of what architecture education should be cannot be addressed uniformly as it has been addressed so far in our 5 years courses. We have to have the variety. And then when a committee was set up by Council of Architecture long ago under the chairmanship of architect Pushkar Kanvinde, and I happened to be a member in that committee, we discussed and deliberated on a point: how are we going to engage the adopt national education policy to architecture education? So when we were deliberating the nuances, the spirit of national education policy was very new at that time. Now over these 3 years, we have talked a lot about it. We now know what the spirit of that entire thing is. Basically, when we talk about multidisciplinary, architecture education is multidisciplinary. We never talk about, we cannot have an architect just as a designer. Architect has to be a person who understands the context, the nation, the area, the roots, the soil where the entire building or a design is going to be erected. And when we talk about the roots, the context, the multidisciplinarity, the individual who is being trained has to have so many facets. And we all know that every architect, when graduates, or every degree holder of architecture does not necessarily become the practicing architect. I stand here as an example. Being an academician also requires, when I actually took up this post, I was said, are you giving away the architecture? And I said, can I? Can I really give away 38 years of my experience and plus 5 years of my education? Will it go away from me? I understood, I realized after taking up the post that being an administrator, being an educationist, being a manager, being a creator, doing so many aspects at a time. Lighter side, I can say that a woman is trained to become multitasker, but leave apart that, I would say every architect is trained to be so. At one point of time, I was told that our graduates are much preferred in the management and business management companies because they would manage the companies much better than the other individuals because of the training which they get in their education. So multitasking or thinking laterally at the same time and looking at the same aspect or a situation in entirely 180 degrees stance is something which is a part of our persona, of architect's persona. So multidisciplinary is there. Most of the things of national education taken care, multidisciplinary. We have to think in many aspects and not streamline into one small thing, especially when we are at the basic level of architecture education or as an architect. So in architecture education, adopting the national education policy, one aspect which we talk about is multidisciplinary is taken care. Flexibility. Flexibility, to some extent we have lost it, but when we talk about so many courses to be added up, probably that would be one thing. That small courses, if we keep on adding and keep on the bridges and make the wider funnel of admission open, which was talked about long time, many a times, and we did mention about the admissions to be made to the to architecture education through a larger, from larger areas. And this was something which we would say would lead to flexibility. But it's not, that is what national education policy also talks about. Now they are talking about that in national education policy, the students who are taking admission to the graduation would come from all fields. If you are an architect, if you are an art student in 12th standard, you can take up a science as well. It's something that flexibility has been talked about. We were rigid in our admissions. Physics, chemistry, mathematics, 50% in that, but creativity and the ability of an individual is not really restricted to the education which he or she has taken till 12th standard is what is being talked about by national education policy. If we have not made changes in that aspect, probably we as architects would, and maybe the council president is not here right now, but then would start thinking in that way. That at pre-education, school education, or requisite education, or prerequisite education in the schooling areas should not be the restriction from any person who wishes to be an architect. This could lead to the flexibility that we are looking for and the diversity which we are talking about in architecture. India is a diverse country, definitely, and the requirement of every nook and corner of our country and expectations from architects are so different. Why can't we think about creating or an architect or making of an architect from that perspective for every part of our country? So eligibility for admission, flexibility starts from eligibility to admission courses. Now when we have that kind of a flexibility, so many things will widen up and open up at that time. Now creativity and the flexibility can also be in the areas where we climb up the ladder of education. When we climb up the ladder of education, at that time we also need to think about the jumping of a student from one branch of specialization to another. And we have been always talking about 5 years is a larger span, so why can't we have a comparative areas where we would say that if the student is admitted to the first year, after 3 years, if we give him or her a degree, then what would be the degree? This was the outcome in the form of a structure that we talked about in our small subgroup which was created by Council of Architecture for implementation of national education policy in India. And that could be so many options. You name them and they could be there. Landscape, building technology, surveying, materials, designing, and so on and so forth. They can come, so many can come from student side also. And the flexibility of admission also was talked about at the time of first year from after 10th as well. So 3 years of diploma and then you make this entry to architecture. But when we talk about such things, we also talked about the bridge courses. Because it works with the one exit after first year with 20 credits in 6 months, that means 40 credits in 1 year. So once you get 40 credits in 1 year, you get a certificate. If you get 80 credits by the end of second year, you get a diploma. And if you get additional 40 credits, then you get a degree. Once you get a degree, you are in a market and you need not practice as an architect, but you can be supporter in the entire ladder of building construction field. Now, when you are supporting that and earning money and you are there and settle down, then you can come back again. But National Education Policy also talks about 3+, you can have a 4-year degree as well. So 4th year of degree could be an honorary degree and could be research-based degree. So if entire 4th year is restricted or is focused on a research area. So anything you are interested, you can focus on research and get into it. So once you are there, after 4 years, only 1 year you have to take up and then become an architect. Because we said that we require minimum 5 years to become an architect. And that's why after 5 years, so this flexibility of National Education Policy of exit after 1 year with a certificate, exit after 2 years with a diploma, exit after 3 years with a degree, exit after 4 years with a research-based thing, exit after 5 years with the eligibility to appear for the examination with the council would take up, and then when you pass that examination, you would be able to take up the license. This was discussed to an extent that why would a self-aided systems allow the students to go out? And if we talk about this particular situation, if we have a larger funnel, or if we want only 100 architects to be, or maybe not even 160 architects to be prepared after 5 years, then the admissions could be given to 1,000 students, I will say. Make all your money for the management. Make all your money with the fees which you would get from 1,000 students. Allow them to move out. At the juncture when they want to move out, with the certificate of the qualifications, with the certificates of the skills, with the no certificate but the skills, anything that they want should be, the system should be able to provide it to them. And if you are ready and prepared with that, you require a very beautiful and a different kind of an ambience and the structure and the system. The flexibility in the entire ambience, who else than the architects would visualize? The entire National Education Policy, even for architecture education, but also for others, should be envisaged by architects in the form of the spaces which are required. Just now Neha was talking to me, she was accompanying me where she is. And she said her PhD topic would be related to blended architecture. So the virtual spaces also could be the things of design for an architect, because that's one of the very important need of the National Education Policy. Most of the education, ODLs and virtual education is what something the National Education Policy is looking forward to. And as architects, why are we not looking at it? Why are we not designing our spaces accordingly? And the entire education of OER, that is open educational resources, where some of the courses and the digital universities are based on. We're not talking about it. We're not thinking about it. We say that our education has to be 5 years on drawing boards and with pencils. That gives us the flexibility, that gives us the creativity. It does gives us, for the generation of my age, or my generation, but youngsters are good enough with creativity with their mouse and in the virtual world. So blended education is something very different. I would like to share one of the example here of not blended but online education. In COVID period, we experimented a lot, all of us did. And that gave us the challenge as well as the opportunity to look into our education system very differently. And we started going on Zoom and platforms and we started teaching there. So online teaching, unfortunately, by most of our teachers have been taken up as a place. I stand on a dais as well as I talk on the platform. So recording a lecture and giving on online lecture. But when I stand in front of you, I stand fully. You can see my sari, you can see me, you can see my hands moving, you can see my persona and my persona. My means teacher's persona probably is able to convey and teach while even much more than her or his words. So that's the benefit of the physical teaching. Surely it has. And if you try to deliver the same way, same manner on virtual mode, then you are cutting off more 80% of the advantages of being physical and then giving only 20%, and the education system tells us that whenever I talk to you, you will listen to only 50% of what I am talking to you and retain only 20% of what have you heard, and then take only 2% back home. So when you go home, you will not remember what I am talking to you, you will only remember 1 or 2 sentences of mine. What are we doing when we are recording the message, lectures and then delivering? Hardly anything is being delivered. But at the same time, if we look at this particular platform differently, and if you look at the advertisements, which are only 30 seconds for there, 30 seconds they're there. In 30 seconds there are so many visuals and the message is very clear and it impacts us so much that we go to the market and buy the product. Or at least the young children ask us, Mom, we want that particular product. Our unit in our curriculum, which is concept based, why can't we treat and create our own visuals in such a manner that 30 minutes of our teaching is squeezed to 30 seconds or maybe at the most 1 minute, and your unit is taught. Youngsters don't want to listen to your 30 minutes of lecture. Pardon me, I will be talking to you. I have been given 30 minutes, but I will not be talking about for 30 minutes. But 30 minutes is something torturous for our youngsters because their attention time has become lesser and lesser and lesser. And the platform has given us the opportunity to handle this particular aspect. But we don't know how to prepare those visuals. So we say, ये मोबाइल रखो, मेरा रिकॉर्ड कर ले लेक्चर और मैं लेक्चर दे देती हूँ और मेरा काम हो गया. National Education Policy talks about it also. It talks about the pedagogy. The pedagogy is engaging pedagogy. We are at a fortunate end. We are at the positive end. We are at the beneficiary end as architecture education because we have been always believing in engaging and interacting and then creating. So one of the best idea which I had is completely, sir is here, now I can talk about that particular idea. Completely revamping architecture education with respect to our structure as well as pedagogy and as well as ambience and the requirement of the spaces. These are the 3 areas under which the revamping needs to be done. I did mention slightly about the structure and also about the pedagogy. But let me talk about something. Ram Mandir is being constructed. One of the senior professors, for example, Kanmin Desai, For example, sir, pardon me. If you wish to continue teaching now again, what would you take? Pick up 15 students from this college, go to Ram Mandir, ask them to give you the space there, be there, and observe Mandir construction every day. Spend 2 hours, 3 hours on that Mandir construction, and at the same time, there are other aspects which are required to be taught. So you can go online, you have got lots of friends like me and others. You can invite us online or physically and we'll be there with you at your request. And we talk to your students, 20 students. So how to enrich them with knowledge and variety of knowledge is up to you as a master, and teach them. Council believes you, says that if you have spent 1 complete year on site with students, then you have outcome-based learning, that these are the outcomes with which your students are equipped. And then that 1 year is granted. This 1 year could be stretched, if properly planned, to 5 years as well sometimes. In Cambodia, there is a Ta Fahim is a temple. If I hope Ujjwala is not here, she would otherwise counter. I can be wrong here in the name. But a temple where the conservation of that temple is being undertaken by Indian archaeology. Some students, group of students who are interested in understanding more about conservation would be there on the site day and night for years together. 1 year, 2 year, 3 year will depend upon the ability of a child to grasp a particular outcome which is required, which is essential, and which Guru tells, "Itna kar liya tumne, now you are ready with the concept to be a conservation architect." But at the same time, if you want to be an architect, practicing architect, which council says that these are the graduate aptitudes which are required for this. So these are the tests which council has taken up. So you have to appear for those tests, pass those tests, and I will prepare you for those tests. I will prepare you either by talking to friends, either by moving in India, outside India, or by inviting virtuals. This is what I mean by flexibility. This is what I mean, the spirit of flexibility which the national education policy has envisaged. There are many other aspects which are there in national education policy, but the time would probably not permit me. I think I have taken half an hour, and that was the time given frame. But implementation of national education policy for architecture education is something which is round the corner. We must go for it. We must prepare ourselves for it, which is the demand of the society, which is the demand of our nation, and which is what we should start working on, which will give us again an opportunity to look at the education in totally different way, and that's totally in not only 360, 180 I'm talking about, because it will give us look at education from the other side, and that's what the definition of a creative person is. What does a creative person do? Look at the situations differently, think differently, and act in a unique way which is beneficial to the society at large. And that's what the objective of architecture education is. So I'm looking forward to it, and my best wishes to us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for giving your valuable insight and thoughts on the national education policy on architecture education, which I'm sure everyone who is present here is benefited, students as well as academicians. Moving forward, for today's conference, we have with us Honorable COA President, Architect Abhay Purohit sir, as a chief guest. Sir, I request you to come on the stage. Let me introduce to Sir. Honorable President, Council of Architecture, Architect Abhay Purohit Sir, completed his bachelor from ENIT Nagpur and masters from IIT Kharagpur in city planning. He has a vast experience over 25 years with Council of Architecture, in which he worked on many committees related to education and professional reforms. He is also the chairman on Board of Studies in Rashtrasanta Tukadoji Maharaj, Nagpur University. For many years, he has been working as a director at Institute of Design Education and Architecture Studies, Nagpur. It's our privilege to have you today with us, sir. So I kindly request today's chief guest, Architect Abhay Purohit sir, to say a few words.
Vande Mataram. The dignitaries of the dais. I've been in Pune for last 3 days, and Pune as a city is capable of utilizing you. I mean, short of use and abuse, to extract the essence out of whatever, if at all I talk something meaningful. The topic is all-encompassing topic, so we are trying to discuss about the present, past and future. We are also trying to discuss about the education and the profession. And how do I figure into this is being President Council of Architecture as such. Council has a responsibility to regulate education and profession. And possibly there where I come in. And maybe whatever I'm going to talk may not be the official words of President Council of Architecture. But along with that as such, there is one academic administrator who had practiced architecture for quite some time and who has a contact with many of the architects as such, and at the same time many of the great educationists like Dr. Ujjwala Chakradev, and the battery of people, Smita is there, battery of people sitting here. And I don't proclaim to be the great professional, neither I am great academician. However, when it comes to synthesizing the things as such, possibly I have a reasonable capabilities to look at the things in a comprehensive fashion. And being President Council of Architecture as such, I have access to certain other spheres whereupon I keep on understanding that what it is going to be, and maybe I just get an earlier sort of a feel of the things which are going to happen. And indeed, yes, we are at the crossroads. Crossroads not only for the education, but also for the profession. And we are well aware of the status of the profession. We are also well aware that national education policy is there, and indeed that would be capable of also penetrating through architecture. And I believe that architecture is one of that programs actually which always had the essence of the national education policy. Because it is architecture in itself is a very multi-dimensional, multidisciplinary program. And we talk about so much of the inputs which are coming from the multidisciplinary programs, that architecture is one of them. So when I keep on looking at it as an academician as such, and I look at the so-called broad framework which has been given by Council of Architecture, I keep on wondering that supposedly I have to reduce something out of this, and what is it which I am going to reduce. But when I look at that, I also realize, and I acknowledge what Dr. Ujjwala Chakradev has put up across, is that there has to have the parallel ways of educating. There could not be the way. Because the moment we say that this is the only way by which you have to go and this is the only what you have to learn, that means that what we are trying to do is we are trying to, typecast the things. And that would not be applicable to any of the creative fields. Whenever we talk about past, present and future, we also have to talk about our strengths and our weaknesses. One of the strengths with India, and it has been put up, is this is Amrut Kal. Target 2035, we are supposed to be the major exporters of the services. And I am glad that Government of India has recognized architectural services as one of those services which actually could be exported. And what does it mean? It means that we absolutely do not have time. It means that we are supposed to elevate our education and profession to such a level whereupon we are competent with the international standards. And what happens? India and Pakistan are possibly the two greatly populated countries which believe that once an architect, always an architect. What does it mean? It means that registration once given would always be given. Now, is that so? The technology is changing, the concepts are changing, the needs have changed, and if the research element is not brought into the profession, we are not going to be at the global standards. Developed countries and the countries which could actually make a value addition, if you look at closely what is happening to the profession, everyone who has done architecture is not necessarily practicing architecture. There are various ways by which they would go. And the ratio, if you look at it, I had the opportunity to interact with the ARB and get the data, and I sent a delegation to London to meet them and have a discussion. Of course, I didn't go. If it comes, I will go at some point of time, but they will come here, either ways. Out of 10 graduating architects, only 3 are the practicing architects qualified to practice, and the process is through professional examination number 1, plus so many years of the experience, etc., and so on and so forth, so that it is clearly the quality part is taken care of. And what architecture should stand for? Is it about aesthetics only? To my mind, health, hygiene, safety, these are the 3, and of course, optimization of the resources. And along with that, what I call as the delight factor, human happiness, and the definitions of it could be varied. This has to be there. So, on an average, in order to become a professional architect, minimum 9 years are spent. This could go up to 13 years. If we have to come to those standards, we have no other goal but to bring a sort of a discipline in the profession so that competent people would be practicing architecture. Now, advantage. Why should we do that? Post-independence, you look at the type of the architecture which has been created. And I keep on asking this question to myself loudly and clearly, that if I have to showcase few projects, then what would be the criteria which I would use to showcase, and whether those projects are worthwhile to be showcased? And I think architect's role is that precisely. Character to the nation is basically given by architecture, and that's the sort of the responsibility. But education could have all that sort of a freedom. Because architectural institutions need not always create the architects. The students, they aspire for a lot of other things. And if that, because what is National Education Policy talking about? It is student-centric learning process. Multiple entries, multiple exits, choice, freedom of selecting what they want to learn. So there is nothing like a compulsory sort of a thing saying that now you have to learn this, and we know what is to be taught. Look at that now. It means that after 1 year as such, a student wants to say that no, you give me that diploma, I want to do something else. He should have a freedom. Or there are credits which are taken from the different paths now, which Ujjwala ma'am was referring to. There could be different paths. There could be this kind of flexibility built into the system. And through this sort of a travel, a student would recognize at one point of time that no, I indeed want to become the architect. Now come on, you want to become architect, these are the grade points as such, these are the various ways, and also that these are the sort of the processes through which you have to go, and this is a professional examination which you have to qualify, and then once you do that, you could be registered. But registration would not again remain permanent. So you have to go back, you have to acquire the grades, and you have to continue with your registration. What would happen? The students would keep on, professionals also would keep on coming to the institutions. The institutions would have a role to be always at the top, whereupon they are talking about the technology, they are talking about the latest trends, they are talking about the research element, and this is something which actually then the professionals are again taking it. This is what is anticipated. Council understands this very well. We are already ready with our documents, and those who are sitting here, many of them have also actually contributed to it. We have worked out the systems which will be rolled out possibly within a span of another 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, or at the most 1 year. That system, as envisaged, is also not restricting the entry. Let people from all streams come to architecture. Because anyways, when they are entering as such, they have not decided whether they are going to be architects. They broadly feel that they have a liking towards architecture, or maybe a design field. Now, if that is so, as such, up till now, the sort of the viewpoint which was taken is that architecture institution has to be very, very independent institution. This needs to be taken out. Multidisciplinary environment. Now, suppose what kind of an ecosystem to be created for the institutions which are going to give this kind of a flexibility, then in that case, along with architecture, if you look at the pendulum, on one side of it, as said, there is a fine arts. At other side of it, there may be structural engineering, or also the students may be going to mechatronics, and this is what I am anticipating. Of course, product design would remain somewhere there, and like lots of array of the designs. At a legislative level, such kind of decisions need to be taken. As a council, we are also developing a document whereupon we say that if national education policy in the truest format has to come to the design education, I cannot afford to talk about now architectural education. Design education, then possibly this is what we intend to suggest as such, and let us have a debate on that, and let us discuss and decide, and let us agree that this is what is needed. And we have the legislative frameworks as such, and we have AICTE, and we have also something known as a design council. Somewhere there are the institutions, IA is there, and ITPI is there, and also we have Urban Designers Institution, and we have the various, and so on and so forth. They have to come, they have to discuss, they have to deliberate, they have to research, they have to rationalize, and come to a level whereupon they agree that this is what it is. This is as far as the education is concerned. As far as the profession is concerned, it's an alarming situation. And I keep on telling it, and at a cost of repetition. I perfectly believe, and I know, and statistics supports that. In India, we need architects in a ratio of 1:10,000 to the population. In the developed world, the ratio is 1:3,000 to 1:5,000, country to country. You can check and verify what I'm saying. 1:10,000, we talk about the need of the architects as of date is 15 lakh. We have hardly 1,65,000. Then where is the gap? What is happening around? Why profession is struggling? This is the point to be understood, discussed. Profession is suffering, to my mind, because the basic ethics which needs to be followed are not unfortunately being followed. In order to give the quality services to the society, you need to have a checklist of the services which you are providing. And the buildings need to be comprehensively dealt with. So sustainability is not something like a fashion, it has to be a part of it. Energy efficiency is not optional, but has to be a tick mark. Cost optimization, like classifying the buildings like that. Now this has been with the alternative technology. And what do you mean by that? The buildings need, because we want to preserve, we want to conserve, we want to also, resources are very, very precious. The checklists need to be developed, but that is not happening around. Unfortunately, they are entering and getting the projects through tendering processes. What happens to the young, enthusiastic entrants into the profession? They come to the office, they have been told that you have not been taught in the institutions. First bad statement to happen. Second statement, we would teach you and hence you have to work with us. Another bad scenario happening around. And after all this as such, what are we offering? All across India, this range is from 7,000 to 17,000, with few exceptional offices which have proven to me that what they are offering is something like 22,000 to 30,000. There are few offices, but these offices are very, very few. 5 years of a program in the multidisciplinary environment, whereupon campus interviews, IT and CT jobs, packages, etc., is there. A student graduating is capable of getting not even the minimum wages which have been stipulated by Government of India. And we want them to have high morals, have high standards, perfect integrity. How can we expect profession is on verge of, I'm sorry to say this, but profession is on verge of failure. I'm discussing about the future. And this actually could be improved with a great synergy. Because on one side there is a need, 15 lakh architects are required. On other side as such, the tendering. And it is expected from Council of Architecture that Council of Architecture should have a magical wand. Overnight as such, they should convince people, agencies, stakeholders to pay the minimum fees. And you as a professional, you would be free to quote 0.25%. What is this? Why is it happening around? You are giving inferior services. Sorry again. But I have to call it because I do not have any other option. We are at crossroads. On one side, we have to look at the educational institutions as such. Yes, indeed, we have to improve their standards and no doubt about that. But at the same point of time, the graduates should also be received by the industry in that format, saying that welcome. Here we are. This is a great profession. This is the scope. And scope? Yeah, tremendous scope is there. And no doubt about that. And I know the practices which are charging more than prescribed by Council of Architecture, and they do not have any kind of problem with the works. Enough of the projects are there. Government, I can tell you from my experience of 3 months or 2.5 months in the office, and also the experience of my predecessors, government is absolutely willing. They want to take you on the board. They are eager. Are we capable of speaking their language? So that is something which actually we have to inculcate in the profession. We all know, pandemic has taught the world many things. And one of them was that it is not necessary that everything has to be face to face. In fact, many a times, not having face to face has a great advantage, and that's what we were talking about. Again, that's what I will come back to what Ujjwala madam has said. Entire purpose is to elevate the standard. So if we have the best of the people available who are capable of explaining it as such, then maybe those lectures could be recorded. Ujjwala ma'am, you can please, you have a meeting, I know that. Thank you very much. I think you have understood what we are trying to put up across. Yeah. Now, if the best possible resources and the people are available, then entire thing could be absolutely properly recorded, and that could be available for the benefit of all the institutions. Because that is the best available today, and there could be something else which would be best maybe in days to come. At that point of time, we can also take a call on that. So there could be certain sort of the knowledge fields whereupon we can have those kind of the series available, everyone gets benefit, and the discussions happen in the classroom with a tutor who is available there, and that would become a very, very meaningful sort of exercise. But this would happen to about the 40% of the programs which we are talking about, and the specialized programs also could be developed. Now 60% needs to be basically engagement with the students, which essentially is talking about the technology, it is talking about the design, it is talking about many other aspects, integration maybe of the knowledge areas, etc., etc. And at a national level, there could be a sort of a debate, and there could be a sort of, coming and discussing seriously and finding it out that what could be the comprehensive approach towards it. And I'm not talking about the approach. Diversity is the essence of it. So but there could be some formalized model, since these are the 10 ways by which actually we can take the design progression ahead. And maybe a school could, choose. And today they choose one, and then they experiment with it, and they find out, and they refine it, and then again they. This would help. I'm talking about a target 2035. The standard of our system has to be so enhanced that we are competent enough to provide the services to the world. That's what very, very simplified thing. In the process as such, we have to have the tie-ups at a global level. So at one end, we are talking about our culture, our traditions. On other end, we are talking about the global needs. And the product should be capable of playing in these two limits. And you need the wisdom coming from all sides. Wherever from the world, if we are capable of improving upon our standards, then that should be welcome. We want to go in for a series of types. I am engaging basically lots of regulating organizations across the world to come to that level, because finally what we are talking about also having everyone having those kind of the services which are the very, very quality services. Practices need to change. Multidisciplinary practices are coming in. Presently, we do not have that kind of the provisions in our Act, so the Act needs to be amended. We are in the process of that. It has been also identified that what are these areas. And when we talk about multidisciplinary practices as such, we have to also understand that the services needs the sort of the protection. And may it be the services of the architects, and may it be the services of the town planners, and may it be the services of the engineers, and may it be the services of the surveyors. We have to find out what is exclusive domain and what is a multidisciplinary domain for all these fields. In the absence of that, anyone and everyone is capable of rendering the service which is so bad. Not bad for us, bad for the society, bad for the nation. Accountability goes off. Accountability is the essence of everything. I was discussing, I said, well, so it's not only architecture. Now, when you say architecture, what is architecture? I mean, again, I look at it as such, and I'm not going to talk about art and technology and this and that. See, primarily, when we say that, like, what are the array of specializations which are happening around? You have a conservation, and you have a landscape, and you have this, and you have that, and you have town planning, and you have urban design. And you have construction management and the project management, and there are nowadays design managements which are possible. We have not established our importance. A landscape architect should do a job of landscape architect. A conservation architect should be capable of doing his job or her job. No one else should enter into that domain. And we have to prove actually as to why only these guys should do this and no one else. Joining the dots. It is essential. Everyone has to come together. Talk about it. I approached, and maybe the only president who has been called by Institute of Engineers immediately after getting elected, to have the discussion. And I'm glad to inform you that 5 engineers have been already assigned by them on the committee which I am talking about. I was waiting for the IA elections. IA elections are over. A letter has gone from my office to President IA to nominate the persons in order to openly now come and discuss about the issues. I am going to also get the people from various other parts. I am not the authority. I mean, I am an authority, but I am not the authority in the knowledge field. And so I should rely and depend on the people who are into basically that domain. Let them come, let them discuss, let them decide, and what they decide as such will be followed. This is one part of it. The other part is that I was talking about the fees as such. I'm probably telling you that minimum fees would be actually put up into the action. Let them discuss and decide that what are the minimum fees. Architects again, those who are practicing, they know they have to do some kind of analysis. We have been preparing the forms for that. We have put up the team of young architects who also understand the IT also on this. I said that work for it, and I'm going to talk with IA actually to be part of that. And let the architects put up saying that if I have to give a quality services as such, then these are the minimum fees. And the calculations are the manpower basis calculations. And while calculating as such, you cannot say that I am paying 15,000 rupees, so that is okay. It has to be the minimum sort of the fees, I mean the remuneration which has to be given to the human resource. One of the professional promises which we have made as such is, we said that we are not going to supplant the practices of other architects. Another thing which we said is we would give the due recognition to those who are working with my project. Neither the conditions are being satisfied. These need to be satisfied, for which as such, now you prepare and come and tell. And once you tell me that these are the minimum fees which has to be taken, may it be conservation because it is under us, may it be landscape, it is under us, may it be interior design, it is under us, may it be architecture which is under us. Town planning at present I would not talk. Urban design, yes, indeed under us. Town planning, we are negotiating. Let them decide. And once you decide, once you give, we would release it as the guidelines by council. And the decision of the Supreme Court is that the guidelines given by the apex body are basically binding in nature. Now you practice. Charge lesser fees. We would identify. We have the tools to identify. And it is not only the person who has got the project, but it is the persons who have also participated and quoted less fees. And we will suspend your registration for a span of first 1 year. You repeat it, 3 years. And you can go. You can go to the court of law. And you will be happy. You will be happy to contest our case. Let the classic arguments happen there. We would put best possible lawyers. But whatever is happening with the nation as such is intolerable. We are coming up into the inferior built environment. This is not tolerable at all. %95% of the population, Indian population, doesn't have access to architectural services. There has to be a right to have access to architectural services. It should be the state responsibility if the affordability is not there. Because that is what is happening with the legal profession, that is what is happening with the medical profession. It has been considered as a state responsibility. Architecture is not optional. Architecture is a need of a human race. And we also as architects should be responsible and understand that responsibility and deliver something. And if you are not delivering that asset, then the government should also have a right to take action against you. Why not? Oh, you are responsible, you are a professional. This kind of the set of the professions which we have to create. I think I am taking much of a time, but I would come to something else other than this now. We all know that this is the age of the disruptive technology. artificial intelligence is around the corner. It essentially is going to come. It has already come. It is there. And it is also going to touch all spheres of life, including architecture. Better we should be ready. Better we should understand that what kind of changes are going to come into the education as well as practice because of this. I am putting up a action group whereupon I would like to take the experience and the understanding of all across the world who are working on that, to understand that how is it going to actually change architecture as education as well as profession. But please take it from me, it's just 5 years. Just that. Because these technologies, they travel so fast that one day you would realize, "Arey, aa gaya, this has come." And then you are not prepared, like pandemic. And then you are afraid. And you would reduce your fees further down. Let us get prepared. You know that this is happening. It's inevitable. You cannot stop it. And there is no need to stop. Because technologies are going to help our civilizations in a better way. That has been proven up till now. That's what is going to happen. That's what is going to happen with artificial intelligence. That's how the society is capable of going to get benefited. We would be capable of analyzing the things in a much better fashion and with great clarity. Let's welcome that. Let's get prepared. Let's try to be taking the advantage of it. Because after all, that is what the vision is. You may have got hurt, I'm sorry for it. But my job is to make you aware. It is for our betterment. This is a very noble profession. It's an ancient, most ancient profession. And that glory we should maintain. Thank you very much. All the very best. And at the same point of time, thanks to SB Patil College of Architecture, its management, its staff, its students, to establish such kind of platform. I was also going through the basically the briefs which are there, abstracts which are there as such. Few of the abstracts are really good, you know, and as it happens with the conference, I have not touched upon research, so at some point of interest research. Few of the things are good, but at the same point of time, the conferences essentially should not be the purpose. I mean, writing the papers should not be the purposes of any kind of the conferences. We should be capable of comprehensively understanding as to what is a takeaway, and that takeaway has to be clearly listed out. So please list out the clear takeaway as such, submit it to the council, and council is willing to take a look at it, and if certain things are implementable, we would certainly like to implement. If certain things require further debates on the matter as such, we would also have the further debates. We do not have any kind of a preconceived notion. I do not think that I understand architecture at all. I am occupying a position of President Council of Architecture. Any chair cannot give the wisdom, but chair gives the power. And I would love to use that power in a positive fashion with cooperation of all of you. Thank you very much. Jai Hind, Jai Maharashtra.
Thank you very much, sir, for your kind words. Now we will proceed with the felicitation of our advisory board members. I kindly request Architect APERP sir to do the honors. I also request Smita Khan ma'am to kindly do the honors for the felicitation, and Makran Pathak sir. Jayashree Deshpande, ma'am, please. May I now call upon ex-Deputy Director, Town Planning Department, Pune, Architect Ramchandra Gohad sir, to please come on the stage for felicitation. May I now call upon PhD and R&D Coordinator BNCA, Dr. Meera Shirolkar ma'am, to please be on the stage for the felicitation. Thank you, ma'am. May I now call upon Professor COAP University, Dr. Aarti Petkar ma'am, to kindly be on the stage for the felicitation.
कंटिन्यू रिकॉर्ड करने के लिए थोड़ा तेज पिच थोड़ा थोड़ा दिए था मैं सांगतो ना थोड़ा
Thank you, ma'am. Now may I call upon Dean Research and Innovation, PCCOE, Swati Shinde ma'am, to kindly be on stage for the felicitation. Swati Shinde ma'am. I think she is not there today. Now may I call upon Deputy Director, PCCOE, Dr. N.V. Chopde sir. Now may I call upon Joint Honorary Secretary, IIA, National Council of Architecture, National Council, IIA, Architect Sandeep Paudekar sir. Now may I call upon eminent architect, Architect Lakshman Thite sir, to come on the stage for the felicitation. Thank you, sir. May I now call upon Honorable Principal AISSMS IoT, Dr. Pradeep Mane sir, and on his behalf, I would request Dr. Rakesh Kumar sir to come on the stage for felicitation. Thank you, sir. Now may I call upon eminent architect Kiran Kalamdari sir to come on the stage for felicitation. Thank you, sir. Now may I call upon senior architect and academician, Architect Pushkar Kanbinde sir, to come on the stage for felicitation.
व्हाईट शर्ट मागे हाईट जास्त आहे ना त्यांची व्हाईट शर्ट वाले व्हाईट शर्ट हां जाऊ का तिकडे हां जा सांगायचं
Now may I call upon Dean Science and Technology, SBPU, Dr. Manoj Jaskar sir to come on stage for felicitation. Here I would like to say that Manoj Jaskar sir has been a guide and mentor for us for a long period. Thank you very much, sir. Director of the Central Placement Cell of PCET. Before proceeding for the lunch break, we will have a group photo session.
So first we will have a group photograph of today's dignitaries.
हा ग्रुप घेणार ना हा यूट्यूबला हा तुम्ही थोडं मागे या फक्त हा नाही तुम्ही मागे येतो ते हाईट त्यांची व्हाईट शर्टवालीची हाईट जास्त आहे त्याला थोडं प्रॉब्लेम हा 2 मिनटं हा हा ते या मागे आता सगळ्या जो ग्रुपला आता बरोबर मागे येतील आता बरोबर सगळे मागे येतील ग्रुप आहे ना आता बरोबर मागे येतील आता मोठा ग्रुप आहे ना भेटलं चांगलं भेटलं
I request all advisory board members to stay back on the auditorium. We'll have one group photograph with all. I request all advisory board members to join on the stage.
झालं की मागे या सगळे प्लीज ए भाऊ मागे 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 सगळे थांबा थांबा
Meanwhile, I'll call upon the stage the principal and staff members from other institutions to join the group photograph.
ओके
जरा सांगू का
ओके ओके
लोक याड होते ना
नाही झालं ना सांग हात कर ना असं झालं म्हणून अजून नाही का
सगळे झोटून
आपलं कामच हो
काय सगळे
Subhra Kapade ma'am, please join on the stage.
हे मागे झालं की रेड टी शर्ट चेक
Now I request all SBPCOAD faculty members and staff to gather near stage to for group photograph with the dignitaries.
5 सेकंद.
Before that, I request all the staff members and principals of other institutes to join for the group photograph on the stage.
हा इथून या. अमोशन आहे गटरी अमोशन आहे ना तू शाकाहारी आहे पण
Other staff from the other institutes, please join on the stage.
त्याला म्हणलं चालू कर म्हणलं आता वय जास्त झालं आपलं पुढे त्रास तर म्हणलं हा वयामानाने कसं पाहिजे थोडं जास्त नाही एक तरी आणलं तरी पाहिजे कुठलं बंद आहे एवढं ते म्हणलं पाहिजे शरीराला चाल सर ठीक आहे भेटला तर घेतो मी नाही सोडून देतो
इथले अडचण झाली इकडे इकडे गर्दी झाली इकडे
झूम इन नको भेटतं फिरवायला लागेल ना पण
थोडंसं लाईट
हे उतरले पाहिजे ना भाऊ नाही तू ना सांगतो ना त्यांना आपल्या उलटा अँगल चांगला भेटतोय आजी भाऊ हां
Now I'll call upon the stage the faculty members of our institute, SBPCOAD, to join for group photograph on the stage.
माणूस घेतोय एवढा हा चांगला भेटतोय हा अँगल चांगला भेटतोय जाऊ नाही का बोला नको घेऊन हा लाव हा एवढं घेतो चालतं ठीक आहे ना हा बरोबर बोलले हा जेवढं साईडला असेल तेवढं लाईव्हमध्ये दाखवा नाही इथं प्ले केलं दिसतं प्ले केलं असं काय नाही कॅमेरा मला दिसतोय असं आहे का काय हरकत नाही इथंच ठरतो ना दिसतं ना बसलं
Now I request student council members to join on the stage for group photograph.
नाही घेत बंद कर
And volunteers also, please join on the stage. After this, we will have a break for lunch, which is arranged on third floor, 50th studio. I would request all attendees to kindly visit student work exhibition on 4th floor after lunch break.
आपल्याला माहिती
say?
नाही तर आपण कसं येणार, आपला अनुभवच नाही तर हां आपला एक्सपिरियन्स नाही तर आपण कशावर बघा.
बंद करायचं का कॅमेरा?
हा, बंद करा.
विचार माझं पण बंद
कसं ट्रेन करायचं ना हां एवढा एक सत्कार द्या.
Thank you very much, sir. Yeah, now we will have the lunch break. The principals and dignitaries will proceed to the library for the lunch, and other faculties can go to the third floor for lunch. The first technical session will start at 2 o'clock. So kindly all the participants be present here 5 minutes before the session starts. Thank you.
Those faculties who have not collected the kit of the conference, please collect it from Anuja ma'am, who is present outside the auditorium. I'll announce again, the technical session will start sharp at 2 o'clock. The attendees will have to present in the auditorium 5 minutes before.
आहे का आपल्याला हां मग काही टेन्शन नाही. चला बुर्र दोघंच आहे का? आम्ही पण हा पण ना तर थांबणार नाही. तू काय करणार मला नाही तर लाई नाही काय टेन्शन नाही करा. थांबायचं मग आम्हाला काय फरक पडतो. बाबा उद्या गावाला जायचंय. रिझर्वेशन काढलंय उद्या तर नाही शक्य नाही. काढून नका.